ago, according to Alyssa, before the younger generations of witches had been born, and hadn't been seen since. I didn't even know if she was still alive, let alone which of my magical talents I owe to her. I could sense anyone's paranormal type without seeing their face, as well as being able to sense lies. I could also fly, thanks to the wings hidden under my human disguise, or fairy glamour, but I'd only glimpsed them once. I'd barely begun to embrace my witch side, let alone my fairy one. As for my foster parents who'd raised me since I was 3, they didn't know fairy falls existed, or that magic was real. I wasn't sure I was looking forward to that conversation, if it ever happened. The paranormal world had strict rules about what you were allowed to tell normals. Alyssa said, "I spoke to my grandmother on the phone. She said you're doing well at learning magical theory, and you might be able to start on the practical stuff soon." My heart skipped a beat. Wait, I'm going to get a wand. You need one to cast spells, so yes. I did a happy dance. Skye walked into the room halfway through and gave me a look that said, "What is that crazy woman doing?" I grinned back. I'll finally be a proper witch. Alyssa had become my best friend since I'd come here, and I'd lucked out with her as a flatmate. I knew she'd be singing my praises to her grandmother, who ran the Meadowsweet Coven and pretty much owned the whole town. The least I could do was not mess up my witch training. Let's just say preparatory lessons hadn't exactly been going swimmingly. Hopefully that would change when I had a wand of my own. I'd been informed in no uncertain terms that the incantations from Harry Potter would not work and would probably result in something breaking. I had to admit, I was afraid that any magic in general might have the same result. I hadn't grown up in this world, which meant popular culture was my only prior reference for all things witchy. I'd started to worry that it was like the difference between learning a second language from childhood versus learning as an adult. Magic wouldn't come as easily to me as it would to the witches who'd been raised here, especially considering the 110-page-long health and safety brochure. I had the distinct impression they'd added a few dozen pages especially for me, considering the waves of chaos I'd stirred up in the few weeks I'd been living here. Not that it was all my fault, but still. I didn't give up on a challenge, not when magic was everything I'd never known I wanted. "Madam Grey says you're ready," said Alyssa. "She's the one who has the ability to recommend you, but the person who gives the final verdict, well, it's Mr. Falconer." I groaned. I should have guessed that Mr. Falconer, the notoriously grumpy wand-maker, was the person who could ultimately give the verdict on whether I'd be allowed to wield my own wand or not. Let's hope he's forgiven me for asking him probing questions about past clients. "You were solving a murder at the time. It'll be fine." I didn't think he and Mr. Bayer even liked one another. I said, "He doesn't like anyone." She wasn't wrong. Mr. Falconer didn't scare me as much as, say, Steve the Gargoyle, the leader of the local police unit. But he knew what a disaster I'd made of my first week here. I hoped being half a witch was enough to qualify for a wand. "The good news is that you can get a broom right away," she added. "The High Flyers asked me to invite you to join." I think I'll pass." She grinned. "Thought so. No harm in asking. I don't want to have to be fished out of the lake anytime soon." The High Flyers were the daredevil Quidditch players, basically. I'd got the hang of my new levitating boots, but broomsticks were a long way off, if ever. "So, when am I going in for wand testing?" I asked. Wands were incredibly expensive, but witches usually got one while they were at school, so the coven would cover the costs for me if I passed the tests. Yet another way I could never repay them for helping one serious...